Welcome to the Focal Insights Podcast Founder Hour edition, hosted by co-founder Joe Pollock. Joe has been in the e-commerce industry for over 25 years. He grew and bootstrapped his own startup to a successful exit. Founder Hour episodes go behind the scenes to learn how some of the best e-commerce brands were founded, grown, and operated straight from the founders themselves. Founder Hour is brought to you by Focal Software, a new generation ERP and operation suite for e-commerce brands and third-party marketplace sellers. Focal was built with SMB brands and marketplace sellers in mind to help them grow profitably. Now let's welcome our host, Joe Pollock.
Hello and welcome to the Focal E-commerce Insights Podcast, where we chat with e-commerce entrepreneurs about business, selling online, and how to overcome challenges for success. Today we have two very exciting guests, but before we get started, for listeners not familiar with this podcast or Focal Software is an e-commerce operations software and marketplace account management company. So if any of our listeners need help growing your business profitably, be sure to stay tuned to future podcasts or feel free to reach out. Joining us today is Nicole and Jake Foy, who are the founders and owners of Silver Sea Apparel, a company that provides activewear with a focus on comfort, style, and sustainability. Their education background includes Babson College for Nicole and Boston College for Jake. Nicole spent 10 years in New York City in corporate fashion at Saks Fifth Avenue and Michael Kors, with a focus on inventory management, revenue, and open-to-buy operations. Jake's background includes working in the entertainment industry in Los Angeles for companies including ICM Partners, Endgame Entertainment, and in the technology world at ServiceNow, Datadog, Heap, and Confluent. They founded Silver Sea Apparel in 2004 with one style and one color made from natural fibers that were non-toxic and plastic-free. Even though Silver Sea Apparel is a fairly new company, they already have over 400 customers, many repeat customers, and are growing quickly. Together, they have 13-month-old twin girls and reside in the Boston, Massachusetts area. Nicole and Jake, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you. Thanks for having us.
Thanks, Joe. Excited to be here.
Yeah, my pleasure. So we always start this podcast with talking about how people got into business, and you guys haven't been in business for very long, so I'm sure all your stories of what motivated you and how you got started are all pretty fresh in your mind. So why don't we start with that? And I just want to add too that when you talk about life in general, there's two pretty big things that are a challenge or a huge endeavor, and one of them is starting your own business, and another is having kids. And you have twin girls, so I can imagine that your plates are full. So why don't you go ahead and give us the backstory on Silver Sea Apparel?
Sure. It actually starts a little bit with the twin girls. And so as we became parents, we were fairly healthy people, I think, to begin with. Like, we ate right, we exercised, and we switched out our cleaning products and all of that, but we didn't realize the impact our clothes had on our health. So what you wear is just as important as what goes into your body as well. Actually, we doing some research, we found that over 80% of activewear, so anything like athleisure trend, which is here to stay, is made from fossil fuel-based synthetic materials such as polyester and nylon, which I'm sure over half your closet has anyway. But that's what triggered us to say, okay, we live in this stuff, right? I live in leggings and everything like that. So it came from a personal need. And in doing the research, I was like, okay, there has to be a fabric out there that's comfortable, that's soft, and does not have any toxins in it. So toxins such as BPA or PFAS, that's what's been linked actually to some skin irritation, type 2 diabetes, infertility, hormone disruption, because when you sweat, your pores open up. And your pores are open, all those chemicals are getting to your bloodstream. So we're in the long game here. So that's what triggered me to be, okay, we need to create something way better than what's on the market right now. And given my fashion background, I also knew, I feel like this is pretty well known, but the fashion industry itself it's pretty quick turnover, right? Fast fashion hopefully is going out, but it's still a thing right now, but they make up 10% of just our carbon emissions in general. So we wanted to combat that as well. 20% of industrial wastewater. So not good statistics. So we're trying to obviously go against that and came across the material called Tencel. It was actually originally used for bed sheets, and it's derived from natural materials, primarily from eucalyptus wood. Part of a closed loop process, polished down, and we actually combine it with bio-based spandex. We get it third-party tested because we really wanted to make sure there were no chemicals in your clothing whatsoever going on your body. Totally toxin-free. And then as far as what led us to, I guess, the products, we started in July of last year, and our first product was a lifestyle sports bra, which is what I wanted because I'm taking care of kids, I'm working, I'm running to the grocery store, I'm going to yoga, I'm trying to do a million things at once. And I just wanted something that was comfortable, supportive, looked good, and just covered all of my needs. As we were doing that, though, and we're testing it with women or customers were asking us, oh, can you make a tank top? Can you make a long sleeve? Can you make this? Can you make that? So like, okay, like we're on to something. And that's kind of what started, I guess, the progression of the company. Now soon to be men's as well.
All right. So always when I hear about entrepreneurs getting into business, there's usually two types. Sounds like you might be a little bit of a combination. So there's the ones that do the research, find the gap, find the need, and then do all the preparation and then get started. And then there's the types that are a little more the gamblers that just jump into the deep end and they're just like, well, I'll figure this out as I go. So you did identify though the gap was we need healthy clothing. And then you had testers, it sounds like, that helped you say, hey, this stuff feels, works, and looks good. And but talk a little bit about that part of it.
Yeah, I'll take that. We first off we looked at every potential material on the market, and there's a lot of options out there. Majority of them are synthetic materials, as Nicole pointed out, derived from petroleum. So we narrowed it down to a handful of materials and ultimately decided on Tencel lyocell based on the toxin-free nature of it, the plant-based nature of Tencel lyocell, and the performance elements that exist naturally within Tencel lyocell. In terms of activewear, we believe, after testing all of the materials on the market, that it was the best option out there of the available non-toxic, plastic-free materials on the market. And so once we settled on that, that was kind of, I gotta give Nicole the credit there for doing a lot of that research up front and then testing the materials. But then, you could probably speak to this more, Nicole, but the design process in optimizing the fit, that was a totally separate process. Once we identified what the ideal materials were going to be, which is the Tencel lyocell with the bio-based spandex. I believe we're the only brand in the US that is leveraging bio-based spandex and Tencel lyocell.
Yeah.
So once we identified that unique mix and that unique blend, then we kind of went about the process of optimizing the actual design to meet the needs of at the time, our women-only customer base. So Nicole, you can talk a little bit more about that side of things.
So my background in the fashion, like corporate fashion retail, was I was usually the person that said, okay, we need 2,000 black boots. They have to be leather, square toe, 3-inch heel, and I need them in 3 months. And I made the phone call. I got the plan approved, and they arrived at the stores and needed them to arrive. This process, totally different because I was on the other side. Like, okay, who takes my phone call and makes all these boots that I needed? So this was a big learning curve for me. I designed the product, but then I had to think about measurements and in the weirdest angles, especially on a bra, and even on the tank top, like certain lengths and different types of fabric. Is it jersey? Is it interlock? Is it knit? Is it what kind of stitch do you want? What kind of thread do you want? So there's not only thread count in bed sheets, but there's a different type of size thread you can use just making a shirt. I had no idea. So going through those intricacies, oh my gosh, I learned a ton. And that was very eye-opening to just all clothes in general, to be honest. It was, yes, but we work with a pattern maker. She's local in the Massachusetts area. Love her. She's been great. And testing with people we don't know, right? Like it's great if you have an idea and all your family and friends buy your product. That's awesome. Love the support. But we need to make sure strangers and people we don't know are just as invested. And that was, I think, and it still is one of the most rewarding parts is when I just got an email the other day, be like, hey, are you going to make more colors? Because this is a game-changing apparel piece. I'm like, oh, sure. But like this woman has bought probably 5 times. We only have 4 products in a few colors. Like those are the kind of things that just keeps you going and gets you excited. Because when you reach that target customer who understands what you're doing and understands that we're helping your body, we're helping the environment, it's biodegradable, it's moisture wicking, it is awesome. And you get it. You're wearing it every day. It's a quality item. It's made in the USA. Like that's just awesome when it all comes together. That's one of the highs. There's also lows in being an entrepreneur, but that's one of the highs.
Yeah, that's a good one. And you're right. You've got to get when you're a small company, you've got to find people that aren't friends and family who aren't afraid to give you honest feedback and
Exactly.
not just tell you how great you are. Not everything's perfect. So those are some of the challenges you face. Now, when I look at this type of business for you, a big challenge with any business is funding it, right? And you've got now something that you touched on earlier, fashion. I think fashion moves quickly, but style is always in style or something.
Yeah.
But so hopefully you got stylish stuff, but you've got to maybe touch on fashion. So my point is that you need inventory, and the inventory probably needs to change, and that's very expensive. So how's that going for you? And is that a big challenge to keep things in stock or continue to be innovative?
Yeah, I mean, I think Nicole's got the background in inventory, but we're not quite at the scale yet where we're, operating on, I would say like full capacity, right? We did have to put up a significant amount of capital between investing in. I think actually might be helpful to provide some context around before we even got the first sample. There were a number of challenges. For instance, finding out, okay, most manufacturers, like I guess we had to find the right manufacturer, right? But who's going to make the actual garment, right? Like, are there just ready-made sports bras that we can put our logo on that are made from just a generic material and we can plug in our material? Like, how does that whole process work? So figuring out how that works was a process in and of itself. What we ended up learning is there's a number of drop shipping companies out there that can basically just print your logo. And that's just, pretty generic. There's a lot of brands out there that do that. In fact, I won't name any particular brands on the podcast here, but a lot of big names actually manufacture the same product is produced at the same manufacturer under different brand names. And so,
Probably the majority of things,
yeah,
actually, if you think about it.
yes. And so we realized, or we knew early on, we didn't want to go that route. We wanted to make unique custom, types of apparel, specifically activewear. And so we've reached out to a number of manufacturers, figured out pretty early on, okay, we've got to engage a pattern maker and a designer. So early on, that process was as we were having these conversations with the manufacturers, we learned that most of the pattern makers and designers worked in-house with the respective manufacturers. And then if you wanted to go manufacture with another manufacturer, you were locked in to that manufacturer in the sense that you couldn't go take the tech pack and the pattern and go bring that to another manufacturer. You'd have to go through the process all over again at a new manufacturer. So I come from the software sales world, and that's kind of referred to vendor lock-in, right? When you can only do business with this one vendor based on the fact that they're doing all these different things for you. So it becomes pretty hard to leave. We didn't want that situation. We wanted to have separation between the pattern, the design, and the manufacturer, which would give us flexibility to go and manufacture with multiple partners. So just to figure that process out and then to go hire, find and then ultimately hire a couple independent, mainly one independent pattern maker and designer. That was like almost a year-long process.
While we
Um,
were pregnant.
yeah, so that was quite. Maybe that's a little bit more detail than most of your audience cares about, unless they're looking to get into specifically fashion, fashion retail. But that was definitely a challenge early on. And then funding that, right? Funding, paying the designer and the pattern maker, paying for this unique fabric blend, which is a combination of Tencel, which is um, manufactured by a company called Lensing, and then Hyosung makes the bio-based spandex. That's a new material that just hit the market. At the time, it was like a year old when we started developing it. It's probably about 2.5 years old at this point, but that's a very new innovation, the bio-based spandex. So we had to source those two separate materials and then have a fabric mill in California blend those materials into the exact fabric blend that we were looking to create, buy that fabric in massive quantities up front, and then coordinate with the manufacturers to make samples based on the designs that our pattern maker, had come up with us, and then go through the process of getting that first sample and then passing it out to dozens and dozens and dozens of women within our network, and then ultimately beyond our network to then wear test for, usually just a few days, sometimes a week, sometimes 2 weeks, and then gather that feedback, synthesize the feedback, and then go, incorporate that feedback into the next sample, have our pattern maker and designer revise the pattern and the design, send it back to the manufacturer. And then we went through that process a number of times with each of the four, styles that we have today. So that is not a quick or easy process. But as we've gotten, over the last 9, 10 months, we've gotten a lot better at it. And, we're continuing to learn and revise our process there. But that was definitely a learning experience in and of itself. And to get back to your main question, funding it, it certainly took plenty of upfront capital, and it continues to take upfront capital. It's a good thing that we both work full-time jobs.
Yeah, any business can burn through money quickly, but when you need that kind of R&D and then inventory, yeah, it's very intense for sure. So okay, so then you've got the I'm assuming then the next step was you finalized a product and you ordered inventory and you get the inventory. Now you got to sell it somewhere, somehow. So, I know you sell online, but let's switch to how you're selling this and getting it out there and getting people purchasing your products.
Sure. You
You
can
want to
start.
take it?
So we did originally start thinking e-commerce was going to be the only channel, and we're going to reach everybody through meta ads. Done. And we quickly found out, as I think many entrepreneurs do, is that meta ads are very expensive. Even with all the testing that you do to make sure that this is your best ad and the highest conversion, it gets tricky when it comes to the cost of acquisition. And we did this primarily in the last fall. So during gift giving, right? It's the holiday season. And a lot of our customers came from this action. So we continued through the holidays, and then we said, okay, let's just pause for a sec, because at this rate, we're going to run out of money soon. So we pivoted, and it became more of a grassroots effort in a way, where I started doing pop-ups in person. And the one customer base that we've seen the highest ROI on are just any women with an active lifestyle. So I would go to, and I still do, go to fitness studios on usually a Saturday or Sunday morning, because there's like 3 or 4 classes back to back to back to back. And I set up my table and I just talk to anybody walking through. Because quite honestly, there's an education piece to this. Not all customers are aware, or all people are aware, that their clothes contain chemicals, that it's seeping into their bloodstream, and it has been for years. I mean, I've had women come up to me like, okay, well, how bad is it? And I'm like, it's pretty bad. I mean, would you eat there's the clean 15 and the dirty dozen when it comes to food. And would you eat Windex? Would you? I mean, really? Like, when you start going into the weeds of this research, you're like, oh my God. So I find that talking to people in person it's the best. But I just can't be at every fitness studio across the United States on every Saturday morning. So what else can we do? So the next step was to start going into wholesale and reaching out to these studios or retail shops and selling our product through as a wholesale channel to them. We can put people's company logos on it, so any kind of corporate position would work. And that's been going fairly well as well. And then through our personal network. So we're in Massachusetts now, so I would say that we're tapping into a lot in down the Cape or just closer to Boston where we are. And we are still on that search, on that hunt to get into a larger big box retailer, because that's where you start moving inventory. And that's where your cash flow comes from. And then it all starts to cycle up. I will say though, with the customers we do have, we have a very low return rate. It's about a quarter of the industry average for an e-com fashion business, which is great. I think it's great. And a pretty standard repeat customer purchase rate. That's right along that 20-25%, which is standard in the industry. So maybe small, but definitely small and mighty and gaining traction. We're seeing, like, we still see that increase. Jake's also been helping me with some of the blogs. So SEO is a big part of this on the back end and just getting more traffic to the site. And customer service. So I think that goes along with being in person, but when someone reaches out on the chat box on the website, like, it's us who answer. It's not AI, it's us. You know, and when I talk to people in person and they're like, well, I don't know what size I am, or I don't know how this is gonna fit. I'm like, okay, well, you're talking to me. Here's my business card, this is my cell phone number and my email. Like, this is a human interaction. If you need a different size or you want a video chat on a fit or something, just call me. I mean, that customer service is not heard of these days. Most of the time, you literally are talking to AI the whole time. So I think that's a very nice.
Amazing. Okay, so you're building a community. You started out with the website and some meta ads, which got pretty expensive. So what are you using? What other tools are you using? So you're blogging, you've got the website, you're doing a lot of shows. That's time consuming too. When you talk about expensive, right? That's your time, and you can't be doing other things that need to be done as well. But what tools have you found that have been helpful to you? And I think is it a Shopify website that you have?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Shopify website.
Shopify.
So I'll get into the tools, but I think it's probably beneficial for your audience if they're in the process of or thinking about starting an e-commerce business to think about, well, what is an e-commerce business? I would break it into, well, yeah, you're selling products online, right? I would break it into, at a high level, kind of two different buckets. Are you selling on Amazon or Etsy or some sort of marketplace that has built-in distribution, right? Like with an Amazon or an Etsy, if you're selling a product or a couple different products, or you have a store on either of those sites, you have kind of built-in distribution, right? Where you have people that are coming to Amazon or Etsy to buy a number of different products, and your product is going to rank based on reviews, based on how good the product is. And there's a lot of creative ways for you to start ranking higher on those, on Amazon, on Etsy, whatever marketplace you're listing on, right? But you don't have to necessarily pay out of your pocket as a business or as a brand for people to come and visit Amazon, right? So that's one avenue. That's not the avenue that we have gone. So we built our store on Shopify, which means that we are solely responsible for driving eyeballs to our site and for building brand awareness. So there's a lot of different ways that you can do that. I'd say after a year or so of doing this, I would say if you're a really strong organic content creator, you're in a position of advantage, because it all comes down to generating eyeballs and traffic to your site, right? And qualified traffic, right? If you're selling women's products, you don't want to be attracting, 60-year-old guys who ride Harleys, right? That's probably not the ideal persona to be visiting your site. But if you've gone the route that we've gone, which is Shopify, so we're built on Shopify. We use Klaviyo for marketing automation. We installed Heap and Post Hog for For site analytics, we end up we like post hog a little bit better. And then Google Analytics as well. Um, let's see, we've got a bunch of like Shopify applications and plugins basically. I think, we looked at a few different Shopify competitors, so to speak, that we could build the site on. Why we ultimately went with Shopify is the ecosystem is the most mature of any of the competitors in that space, meaning if I want to go install again Klaviyo, right? Like there's a Klaviyo app that gets integrates easily with Shopify for reviews. There's a review. So many different review apps on Shopify for referrals, for loyalty programs, for anything and everything that you're going to basically have to buy software for as it relates to running your store. Shopify has the most mature ecosystem that makes it the easiest for the end user, in this case, the business owner, to go and install those applications and run their business in a more efficient manner. So that's kind of the reasoning behind why we went with Shopify. But back to like the point around driving traffic to your site. If you're going to go the direction of building your own site, yes, Nicole mentioned that we're focusing on SEO. That's a slow process, right? You're not going to all of a sudden generate 10,000 organic visitors to your site, every month. Month one, or probably even month 6 or month 12. Like that's a process where you have to get very, very specific. We use SEMrush and Ahrefs for tracking SEO and understanding keywords that people are searching, what the volume of those keywords are, what the intent is. Is it informational? Is it more commercial? There's a whole strategy that there's a bunch of podcasts out there if you want to get more into depth on SEO optimization, but that's definitely a big piece, right? Because all that takes is time for you to write the SEO optimized blogs, understand what keywords your audience is searching for, and then be on a consistent schedule, right? Where you're releasing a blog every week or whatever makes sense, right? But over time, that traffic is going to compound if you're doing the SEO piece right. And then after, let's say, 2 years, maybe you have 5,000, 10,000 organic visitors to the site each month from the SEO blog effort that you've invested, a few hours or 5 hours per week, every week, though, for the last 2 years, built up to the point where you've got 5 or 10,000 organic visitors. If you can make sure that your conversion rate is industry average, which is roughly 3%, that's not an incredible business, but hey, that's pretty solid because that's not traffic that you have to pay for, right? On the organic content side of things, if you're a whiz with generating organic content that is reaching tens of thousands or hundreds of thousands of people per post, obviously that's a really big advantage, right? You can drive that traffic to your site, that plays into your Facebook ads. The whole driving traffic to your site, whether it's paid or organic, you have to have both. And there's no one right way to kind of go about it. I think the advice I would have is focus on 1 or 2 specific channels when you start. Don't overwhelm yourself with trying to do 10 different things mediocre. Focus on 1 to 2, maybe 3 things, and do those 3 things as well as you can possibly do them.
Yeah, that's a good point. It sounds like you're leaning pretty heavy on the website at this point, which is great. And another advantage you have there is that you can capture and build your email marketing list as well, not just from orders, but Shopify's got a number of tools to build that list, offer discounts, capture that information, and then market to those people as well. But I also consider any social media a component of e-commerce, and I'm hearing a lot of talk about micro influencers. And I think that with a product like yours, there are people that are into healthy lifestyles that includes clothing. And I'm wondering if you've found anyone to work with on the influencer side of things, because that's a hot topic these days.
Yeah,
Tested it.
we have tested that. We use Social Cat. We've used Affluencer. We set up an impact affiliate program. We even hired a third party, partner to help us get that set up. And I can't say that it's been a profitable endeavor or investment to date. I think there really is an opportunity there. It's just, I think, getting back to my takeaway from kind of the last rant, which is just like kind of focus on a couple things and do those things as well as you possibly can. That's where we're at now. We just don't have, between the two of us working a full-time job, there's just not really adequate time to spend in really building out that ambassador affiliate program. And I would bundle that into working with micro influencers, which requires you to go and manage that relationship and make sure that you're both getting a good deal within that relationship. And if you're doing that at scale, right, like that's a decent amount of time. You can always hire a third party to do that. And again, we experimented with that, but it's an area that I think we certainly can improve on. And over the next year, 2 years,
Yeah.
I definitely expect that we'll spend some more time investing in that. We definitely experimented with it over the last year, and it's an area that I think we need to improve at.
Yeah, and I think it's also an area that's growing and will continue to
Mhm.
grow. And that brings us to speaking a little bit about the future. E-commerce currently is a $6 trillion market. About 25% of every retail sale that happens is online now, and that's growing probably to 8 trillion in the next couple of years. So what do you guys see coming in the future? And what are your plans for growing the business and then ultimately scaling the business as we grow into more people purchasing online?
So from a product perspective, which I think is important, is we will have a men's line this summer. So stay tuned for a few months, but we're definitely getting to the men's segment. And right now we only have tops, which kind of seems funny. So we need bottoms. So something as simple as that, though, is what we're hearing from customers. Like, hey, I love your tank, but what do I wear down here? And I'm like, pants, leggings. I'm working on it. But even that is just having a complete set, head to toe, because that's what I'm finding with wholesalers too, is they're saying, oh, I love this. It's so soft. Like, I tested it out, moisture wicking. Like, this is awesome. I want to live in this all day. But in order to sell this to our customers, meaning the yoga studios or whatnot, they need the full set. So I think first and foremost, men's and bottoms by the end of 2025. That is the goal. And then just rolling out more pieces and collections. When we first started and when I kind of did a product roadmap, it was very focused, very, very focused on what exactly I wanted to make. And then I broadened it a little bit to encompass the customer feedback, which is important. But my goal is to get it back to where my focus is, because those styles that I want to create come up time and time again as suggestions. So trying to figure out that balance of attracting new and more customers and then still giving your current customer base what they want and more.
I think a better way to say that, Nicole, is the styles that were originally slated, that we were going to focus and make the investments in getting out as soon as possible. Those were not easy styles to necessarily develop. And the feedback that we've gotten from our customers is that they really want those styles. So we're listening to our customers from that perspective. You were also in identifying, oh, I think this is what people want. You were correct. We've since had that validated by receiving a lot of feedback from customers asking for those specific styles. The reason that we, maybe this wasn't the best path forward, but at the time, we made the decision to go and bring 4 products to market that we could get to market relatively quickly.
Sure.
And so we chose to, get the 2 tank tops, the long sleeve. The sports bra took a long time to develop. That was a year and a half in development. The tank top was 6 months. The long sleeve was less than that. So like between the 2 tank tops and the long sleeve, those were like products that we knew we could get to market relatively quickly. And so we might have, not the customers don't love the tank top and the long sleeve. They do. And the feedback's been great on that, but we knew that we could get those to market a little bit more quickly than some of the more complex ones. And so I think that's kind of what was guiding that decision. And Nicole is still just as excited as ever to get the products that we've been working on for a year and a half at this point, to get those finally to market, especially after hearing all the feedback from the customers, continuing to ask for these products.
Yeah. It's getting pretty old when I have to say, it's coming, like just give me your email. It's coming in like 3 months. Hang on.
Yeah, you touched on a really significant component of starting and getting a business up and running is being able to prioritize what you need to keep the business viable and running, and balance that against what people want. But at some
Mhm.
point too, Jake, in software sales, if you hear somebody wants this one feature and you hear it on every call you're on, well then, hey guys, we got to move this up the roadmap a little bit, if possible. But yeah, juggling that kind of prioritization is a big challenge.
Yes.
100%. I guess just to round out the answer to, or at least my perspective to your question around where the industry's going, I think non-toxic, plastic-free activewear, you just call it non-toxic clothing, is right in a similar place that organic food was roughly 20 years ago. So back in the day, like my mom was one of the first, to get on, recognize, hey, there's all these chemicals and pesticides in the food that we're eating. I don't want to be feeding my kids that. She was like going to Bread and Circus, well, way before it was bought by Whole Foods. And, this is 20, 25 years ago. Organic food was kind of a niche thing. There was an awareness, but it wasn't widespread. And, now not everyone's eating organic food, but everyone's generally aware of the fact that, oh, there's organic food. That's an option out there. You see it in every supermarket, from Stop and Shop to Shaw's to Safeway out west. So it's a much more mainstream thing. I think toxin-free, non-toxic, plastic-free activewear and clothing in general is probably in that same place that organic food was 20 years ago. I think there's that niche awareness, but it's not quite mainstream yet. People are getting more aware. They're recognizing that it's a problem. But over the next 5 to 10, 15 years, I think it's going to continue to grow as people become a lot more aware that, hey, I don't want to be exposing myself to BPA and PFAS and forever chemicals that are likely to cause cancer and may make me infertile, might, give me a better chance of getting type 2 diabetes, all these bad things. Once people recognize, like, yeah, I probably want to avoid those things, I think there's going to be a bright future for the non-toxic clothing space.
Yeah, I agree. I think there is a big movement in health and medicine. And, you're hearing, regardless of the political side of things, make America healthy again. I mean, there's nothing wrong with that. And if clothing's a component of that, then all the better.
Who can be against that?
Yeah, it sounds pretty good to me.
There's an education piece too, though, because as we're going through this in the research, and like our PET is a popular material right now. It's just recycled plastic water bottles. So yes, we're preventing plastic from going in the landfills. All for it, great. But having your clothes being made of that, you're still wearing plastic, and it's actually processed again and again and again. It's even worse than just wearing the water bottle to begin with.
And it's
So
not
I
very
think
comfortable either. I've had
no.
made of
So
that.
I think there's some polyamide is another one. Bamboo has been popular, and it's like they all sound great, but you do need to do one more quick Google search to say, is this really non-toxic? Is it really sustainable? And that's, I think, what we're running into now too, is in talking with people like, oh, well, this is made of bamboo. It's great. It's a plant. I'm like, if you knew the chemicals that go into even getting that plant to a fabric, you wouldn't wear it anymore. So that's another piece that we're growing awareness of and trying to educate people on that too.
Yeah. So how about though, from an e-commerce standpoint, or where do you think you'll expand e-commerce sales, or are you going to stick, meaning like Jake mentioned earlier, there's marketplaces, marketplaces that have clothing, there's clothing specific marketplaces. Of course, there's your website. Any other thoughts on e-commerce sales in the future?
Yeah.
to grow.
So we're putting out roughly maybe every week to 2 weeks a new blog. We're focusing on SEO optimization this year. We've got as of what, 8 months ago, we had zero organic visitors to the site on a monthly basis. And now a month ago, we had about 400. We're now up to 500 organic visitors per month on the site. And our goal by the end of the year is, as we continue to optimize for SEO, release new blogs, and just get better at that side of things. Um, I think a low goal would be to get over 1,000 visitors per month, organic visitors. I think our stretch goal is to try and push that to 3 or 4,000. And so that's like that is the ecom business, right? Like where if we can get 5,000 visitors to the site at 3% conversion, right? That's 150 orders, per month. That's more than enough to pay the expenses of the business, meaning like the software expenses, the hosting on Shopify, like all the other office expense, internet, like everything that goes into just running the business. And there is plenty of expenses. Um, and so that's one area that we're going to continue to do because all it costs is a little bit of time, right? It doesn't cost us necessarily money as we go, get closer to the holidays, we'll probably end up putting a little bit more of it, investing a little bit more into the meta ads. I don't think we'll go back to TikTok. I don't think we'll go back to Google or YouTube in terms of paid ads. But I think, yeah, Meta was probably the closest. That was where we had the best results for the paid ads. So we will definitely go back at some point, most likely by the end of the year towards the holidays and make some more investments in the paid ad side of things. If not this year, like it's 100% going to happen in the future. It's just a matter of when that actually makes sense to go and make that significant investment. Just to give people a little bit of context, it's not just like, maybe for some products it's just a few $100s or $1,000, with a luxury product, in the space that we're in. It's tens and tens and tens of thousands of dollars that we're talking about just, in a couple months, right? So it's not a small amount of capital that you're talking about making, putting into the business. So when we do that again, we want to make sure that it's the right time, that we've learned from all of the prior results. We've looked through that data in great detail, and that when we go do that again, that the results will be better, and we're confident that they will because this is also another helpful anecdote for anyone thinking about running meta ads. The meta pixel, you typically have to anyone who works for an agency or it's a media buyer probably has heard this term before. Like the meta pixel has to get seasoned, which means it has to see roughly 1,000 conversions fire before it's able to fully understand what the likely customer is who's going to be buying your products, right? And then you can go create lookalike audiences in Meta that will then use that data from the first 1,000 conversions to then go just really drastically improve your conversion and drastically reduce the cost of acquisition as you continue to run those ads. But it's an expensive endeavor until you get to that 1,000, give or take the 1,000 conversion mark, at which point your meta pixel is, as they call, seasoned. So we definitely want to get our meta pixel seasoned. It's just a matter of when it makes sense to go make that investment again.
Yeah, you picked a very competitive space for from a marketing standpoint, competitive and expensive. And the SEO makes perfect sense as long as you're trending in the right direction and you've got those conversion rates, then it just grows and grows over time, even though it's never as fast as we'd like it to be.
Nope, that's definitely a lesson for starting your own business. Everything takes longer, whether you're doing it, whether you're waiting for someone to get back to you. It's time, a lot of time. And they do say, like, just stick with it. Like, you're gonna make it. And you're like, okay.
Failure is not an option.
Nope. Nope.
All
it's
right, well,
not.
let's circle back to just business in general and see if you guys have any tips for anyone that may be listening and thinking about starting their own business. Just in general, anything that comes to your mind, motivational or advice for anyone ready to jump into the deep end.
I'll go first, I guess. Nicole, you can compose your thoughts. I mean, I'm a pretty transparent guy, so I'll just give you my 2 cents. Take it or leave it. You know, it's not an easy thing to do, and if you're planning to go and start a business from scratch, um, I would probably recommend not doing it the same time that you have that you welcome twins into the world. Um, so that would be just one piece of advice. I think you just have to be prepared to, it's going to be more difficult than you're likely anticipating. And if you're not willing to invest the time and be willing to consistently learn, and most importantly, reach out to your customers and receive that feedback constantly, just like talk with your customers, understand what matters to them. At the end of the day, that's what every business is designed to ultimately do. It's not what every business ends up doing in practice, but it is what businesses are supposed to be doing, is serving customers, right? And that's the beautiful thing about capitalism and having a market where multiple businesses can compete for the the customer, right? And ultimately, the businesses that serve customers the best are going to be the most successful businesses in a actual free market. But it's going to be a lot more difficult than I think it was. At least I'll just say it was a lot more difficult than I thought it would be. But it's been an incredible learning experience, and we're excited. We're definitely excited for the future and to continue growing the business.
Yes, it's definitely worth it. It's hard. It's definitely one of the hardest things I've ever done, but it's a million times worth it. I think my piece of advice, and maybe it's just my personality, but I'm definitely a perfectionist, and I'm someone who's would rather fly under the radar than be out and in everyone's face and everything. And what I found is just ask people for help, ask people for feedback, ask people for their network, because people are actually very willing to help you. I mean, I walked into a yoga class this morning and I'm like, oh yeah, you have my brow and great. You like, and all of a sudden people are like, oh yeah, okay, I'll support you. But like, that's something new that I'm working on. And I've gone out to other retailers and talking to them like, oh, who else do you know? Or who do you go to work out with? Or what's your mom group? What, like now I'm a mom, so I'm like, what mom groups are you into? All my other friends. And just asking, because people they love to talk about themselves. They love to think they're giving you value, and they are. But that was something that I wasn't prepared for. The exposure of it and just the willingness to put yourself out there.
All
You
right.
gotta do it.
Excellent advice from both of you. Okay, well, as we start to wrap up here, why don't you tell our listeners where to find this stuff, this Silver Sea Apparel? Healthy
Sure, I would say
clothing.
silverseaapparel.com. That's where everything is, all the products, all the colors. We're in local shops in the Boston area, in Cape Cod, if you're from Massachusetts. And yeah, if you have any questions or anything, just reach out. It's us that you talk to, no robot.
Yeah, there's the messenger on the website.
Yeah.
Just shoot off a message in there. It'll come right to the phone, and if we'll get right back to you. So yeah.
Awesome. Well, with that, we're going to wrap up today's podcast. Nicole and Jake, thanks for sharing your experience with our listeners, and thanks to everyone listening. And we'll
Thanks
see
for
you
having us, Joe. Really appreciate it.
next time. My pleasure.
Thank you for listening to another episode of Focal Insights Podcast. If you like this episode, go ahead and hit the subscribe button so you can be alerted of new episodes. See you next time.